Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are not just looking at a scam. We are looking at the scam.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And I don't say that lightly. You know, we cover a lot of failed startups, bad investments, tech that it just didn't pan out. But usually, those start with good intentions, right?
Exactly.
Someone has a dream, they try to build it, and it crashes.
Most failures are tragedies of incompetence or bad timing. What we are looking at today is a tragedy of intent.
A $4 billion tragedy of intent. We are talking about OneCoin. And if you were anywhere near a computer or a financial discussion between, say, 2014 and 2017, you probably heard the noise. It was
deafening. That was everywhere.
It was pitched as the Bitcoin killer. It was supposed to be the democratization of finance for the little guy.
Right.
But as the Times put it later, it ended up being one of the biggest scams in history.
And that figure, $4 billion US, that's probably the conservative estimate. Some investigators think it could be much, much higher.
That's insane.
But what makes OneCoin so fascinating to me, and why I think it's the perfect subject for a deep dive, is that it wasn't just a financial crime. It was a psychological masterpiece.
How so?
It leveraged the two biggest drivers of human behavior: the fear of missing out and the complete confusion around new technology.
Right, because 2014 was a weird time for crypto. Bitcoin had just had that massive run-up in 2013, you remember. It hit $1,000 for the first time, and then it crashed.
Right, it crashed hard.
But the public consciousness had shifted. People knew that magic internet money could make you rich, but they had absolutely no idea how it worked.
Precisely. And into that gap between I want to get rich, and I don't understand how blockchains work, stepped Dr. Ruja Ignatova.
The crypto queen herself, and we have to spend a second on her, because she was not your typical scammer.
No, not at all.
She wasn't some kid in a basement with a hoodie. She had the credentials. Oxford educated, a stint at McKinsey. She showed up in ball gowns and diamonds. She looked like the CEO of the future.
She projected ultimate competence. And she was flanked by this guy, Sebastian Greenwood, who we will discuss a lot today. He was the engine, the master distributor.
So they launched this thing in late 2014. And while it feels like a decade ago, the fallout is still raining down on people right now.
Oh, yeah.
We are talking about court cases and sentencing happening in 2024 and even into 2025. This isn't a history lesson. It's a current event.
It's still unfolding.
So here is the mission for today. We have a massive stack of documents. We're talking court filings, FBI warrants, investigative reports from journalists. We're going to unpack how a centralized pyramid scheme managed to masquerade as a decentralized technological revolution for years.
And we need to explain the mechanics of the lie, because it is surprisingly technical on the surface, and yet it's shockingly simple when you pull back the curtain.
And we need to answer the big questions. Where did all that money go? And where in the world is Ruja Ignatova?
The billion-dollar question, or $5 million question now, I guess.
Exactly. I promise you, by the end of this, you are going to have a massive aha moment about the difference between a real blockchain and what OneCoin actually used. Spoiler alert. If your blockchain can be edited by a guy named Steve in an office park, it's not a blockchain.
It definitely involves a lot less cryptography and a lot more just typing numbers into a SQL database.
So let's get into it. Segment 1, the product that wasn't. Because in any business, even a fraudulent one, you have to sell something.
Right.
You can't just ask for money for nothing.
Well, you can, but that's just begging. To make it a business, you need a product. And OneCoin's legal structure was actually, I have to say, it was quite clever in a devious way.
Okay.
They explicitly claimed they were not selling cryptocurrency.
Which sounds insane for a company called OneCoin.
It does. But legally, if you sell a currency or a security, that requires licenses, audits, and intense scrutiny from regulators. So OneCoin marketed itself as a company selling educational material.
Financial education.
Exactly. They were in the business of knowledge.
Okay, I've seen some of these materials in our research stack. They called them educational packages. And they had these grand names like Tycoon Trader or Infinity Trader.
Yeah, they sounded very impressive. And the pricing structure was designed to catch whales. It was a classic funnel.
How did that work?
The packages start small, around 100 euros, which is accessible for almost anyone who's curious. It's a low barrier to entry.
Get them in the door.
Exactly. But they scaled up aggressively. You could buy packages for 5,000 euros, 10,000, 27,000 euros.
And it went even higher. I'm looking at sources here that show the top tier packages. Sometimes they bundled them together, reaching 118,000 euros.
And some reports I've seen indicate there were special promotional packages that could hit 225,500 euros.
225,000 euros. Let's just pause on that. That is a house in many parts of the world. That is a Ferrari.
It's life-changing money.
It's someone's entire retirement savings.
Yeah.
And in exchange for that, you are receiving PDF files.
Ostensibly, yes. You are paying for the knowledge. You are investing in yourself.
So, for the price of a Harvard MBA, surely this content was groundbreaking. Was it proprietary trading algorithms, insider secrets from, I don't know, the Wolf of Wall Street?
This is the first big aha moment of the scam. And it's almost funny if it weren't so tragic.
Okay.
When investors and later, investigators actually opened these files, they found something laughable. The content was.
Right.
It was generic. It was basic explanations of economic theory. Stuff you could get in an Econ 101 textbook.
And not even original basic explanations.
No, this is the best part. Lawsuits filed by former investors revealed that huge swaths of the text were just plagiarized.
From where?
We are talking copy-paste jobs from free sources available all over the internet.
Including Wikipedia. I saw that in the filings. Can you imagine? You mortgage your house to buy the Tycoon package, you open the first module all excited, and you realize you could have just Googled what is inflation and gotten the exact same text for free.
It's so tragic. But it speaks to the fact that the product was never the point. The education was what they call a MacGuffin in film. It was just the object that allowed the money to change hands legally.
So what was the real hook?
The real hook, the reason anyone paid 100,000 euros for a Wikipedia article, was the tokens.
Right, because when you bought the education, you got these free tokens as a bonus.
Yes, and the pitch was that these tokens were the raw material used to mine OneCoins.
They're co-opting the language of Bitcoin here.
Completely. In Bitcoin, as you know, mining is this competitive, energy-intensive process where computers solve complex math problems to secure the network and create new coins. It's real work.
It's difficult.
It is. So OneCoin told its users, you don't need to buy expensive hardware. You don't need to be a coder. Just give us your tokens and we will mine the coins for you on our powerful servers.
It's mining as a service, a hands-off approach.
In theory. But in reality, it was a simulation, a complete fiction.
This is the part that feels like a video game to me. You know, in a mobile game, you tap a button to build a castle, and a little timer appears that says, building. 4 hours left. And then 4 hours later, ding, you have a castle, but you didn't build anything. A line of code just changed a 0 to a 1 in a database.
That is a perfect analogy. It's exactly what happened. Investors would log into their OneCoin back office, which by all accounts was a very slick-looking website, and they would see a dashboard.
Right.
They would click Mine, and a progress bar would start chugging along. They would watch it for days or weeks, and then the numbers in their OneCoin account would go up. They felt like they had accomplished work.
They felt like they were part of the digital revolution. Look, I'm mining, but what was actually happening on the back end? Was there anything?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There were no mining servers. There were no complex cryptographic puzzles being solved. The company claimed to have these massive mining farms in Bulgaria and Hong Kong, but investigators found that these were ghosts.
So what was it?
It was just a standard SQL database.
Okay, for the listeners who aren't tech-heavy, let's really distinguish between a SQL database and a blockchain, because this is the absolute crux of the lie.
Right. It's the most important distinction. A blockchain, like Bitcoin's, is a decentralized ledger. It lives on thousands of computers, we call them nodes, all over the world. No single person or company controls it.
So if I wanted to cheat the system...
If you wanted to change a record, say you want to give yourself 1 million Bitcoin out of thin air, you would have to convince more than 51% of the entire global network to agree with your lie.
Which is?
It's computationally and economically impossible. It's what makes it secure. A transaction is immutable. Once it's written forever.
Oh, okay, so that's a blockchain. What's a SQL database?
A SQL database, on the other hand, is what your local library uses to track overdue books. It's what a standard corporate website uses for its user accounts. It lives on a private server.
And someone has the password.
Exactly. And if you have the admin password, you can go in and change anything you want, whenever you want.
So Ruja Ignatova and her team had the admin password to the money.
They did. OneCoin wasn't a cryptocurrency. It was a loyalty points program hosted on a private server in an office in Bulgaria. They could issue as many coins as they wanted. They could freeze accounts. They could revert transactions. They had total control.
And they did. They controlled the supply completely.
Which meant they could rig the price. In a real market, Like for Bitcoin or stocks, the price is determined by supply and demand from millions of buyers and sellers.
Right.
In OneCoin, the price went up because Ruja said it went up. Leaked internal documents show they would hold meetings and literally decide, okay, next week, the price of OneCoin goes from €5 to €6.
And the users log in, they see the graph on their dashboard go up and to the right, and they think, wow, I'm a genius investor.
Exactly. It creates this powerful feedback loop of euphoria.
Huh?
You see your account value doubling, then tripling on paper. Why would you question the technicals when you feel like you're getting rich?
That leads us perfectly into the structure of the scam, because we call it a scam, but experts usually debate between two specific terms: Ponzi and pyramid.
Right.
And OneCoin was this weird Frankenstein's monster of both.
It was a hybrid, for sure. And understanding the difference helps explain why it grew so big so fast.
Okay, let's unpack the definitions for everyone. Let's start with Ponzi.
A Ponzi scheme, named after Charles Ponzi, of course, is fundamentally an investment fraud. You take money from new investors and you use it to pay returns to earlier investors. There's no actual profit being generated from a business.
You're just robbing Peter to pay Paul.
The Bernie Madoff special, exactly. OneCoin had elements of this. They needed a constant flow of fresh capital to keep the lights on and, crucially, to allow the very few people who are actually cashing out to do so.
But a pure Ponzi usually collapses when the flow of new money slows down, right?
It does. And that's where the pyramid scheme structure comes in.
Okay, so what's a pyramid?
A pyramid scheme is defined by recruitment. The primary way you make money isn't by selling the product, because remember, the product here is a plagiarized PDF, but by recruiting other people to sell the product.
Hang on, do you want to be your own boss and work from your phone?
It's that. But on a global billion-dollar scale, OneCoin was a recruiting machine. They used a classic multi-level marketing, or MLM, structure. If you brought someone new in, you got a commission on the package they bought.
And if they brought someone in?
You got a piece of that too. And so on down the line. It creates this massive incentive to evangelize.
And this is where the rallies come in. We've all seen the footage. It's incredible. We're talking Wembley Arena in London, huge arenas in Bangkok and Macau.
These weren't boring financial seminars.
No, these were rock concerts. There's fire, lasers,
Yeah.
pumping music. Ruja comes out in a silk ball gown.
And notice the focus of those meetings. They barely mention the educational packages. No one was on stage saying, check out this great chapter on supply and demand economics.
They were screaming about the coin, the price, the Bitcoin killer. They were selling the dream.
And leading that charge, whipping up that frenzy, was Sebastian Greenwood. We mentioned him earlier, but we need to look at his incentives. He was the global master distributor.
What does that actually mean in terms of money?
It means he was at the absolute apex of the pyramid. The compensation plan was incredibly lucrative for those at the top. Greenwood took a percentage of the entire network's sales.
The entire global network.
Yes. Some estimates suggest he was taking up to 5% of the global volume in one capacity or another.
5% of $4 billion.
It's an obscene amount of money.
Wow.
Personally, investigations suggest he made over $300 million US.
300 million. And he didn't exactly bury it in the backyard, did he?
No. Part of the con is looking the part. If you are selling the future of money, you have to look like you own the future. Greenwood spent lavishly.
What did he buy?
International real estate apartments in Dubai, properties in Thailand, a place in London, luxury clothing. He had a collection of high-end watches that would make a professional collector weep.
And the boat. We have to talk about the boat.
The Sunseeker yacht, he put a down payment of 6.5 million Swedish krona on it.
You know, there's a specific kind of hubris to buying a super yacht with money stolen from people who are just trying to save for their kids' education or their own retirement.
It really paints the picture of who these people were. They weren't deluded idealists who got in over their heads. They were looters.
Absolutely. And while Greenwood was buying yachts, the investors were facing a very different reality. This is the part that always confuses people. If my account says I have $1 million in OneCoin, why can't I just withdraw it?
Right. The Hotel California problem.
Yeah.
You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
So how did they trap the money?
This was managed through the OneCoin exchange, which was called Xcoinx. This was an internal marketplace.
Internal only.
Yes. You couldn't take your OneCoin and sell it on a real exchange like Coinbase or Binance because, again, it wasn't a real crypto. It didn't exist outside their server. So you had to sell it back to other users on their exchange.
And they controlled the rules of that exchange.
Brutally. They had selling limits. For example, if you bought the basic starter package, maybe you were only allowed to sell 12 euros worth of coins per day.
So even if you're a millionaire on screen, you can only get lunch money out.
Exactly. They drip-fed the liquidity to prevent a collapse. And then whenever the selling pressure from the community got too high, they would just pull the plug.
The maintenance excuse.
A classic. On March 1st, 2016, suddenly the exchange closes. The official notice says it will be closed for 2 weeks for maintenance and better integration with the blockchain.
Which we now know is a complete lie because there was no blockchain to integrate with.
Precisely. But it bought them 2 weeks where no money could leave the building. Meanwhile, money was still coming in from new recruits buying packages.
And they did it again later, right? It wasn't a one-time thing.
Oh yeah. January 2017. The exchange shuts down again. This time, for good. But they had a brilliant excuse.
What was it this time?
They claimed they were preparing for an IPO, an initial public offering. They were going to take the company public in 2018.
So they told everyone.
They told everyone, don't sell your coins now. That's a terrible idea. Convert your coins into OFC certificates for shares in the future company. You'll be even richer when we're on the stock market.
That is genius in a truly evil way.
I can't give you your money back, but I can give you this other piece of paper that promises you more money later.
It completely prevented a bank run. If everyone tries to cash out at once, the Ponzi collapses instantly. By locking people in and dazzling them with future promises of a huge IPO, Ruja and Greenwood bought themselves another year to siphon off the real cash, the euros, dollars, and yuan, into their labyrinth of offshore accounts. It creates this artificial scarcity and keeps the hope alive. But surely, with an operation this massive, operating in almost every country on Earth, the regulators weren't blind. I mean, $4 billion doesn't just move through the banking system unnoticed.
It didn't go unnoticed at all, and that's the real tragedy here. The warnings were loud, and they started surprisingly early. This wasn't the case where the government woke up in 2017 and said, whoops, we missed one. They were screaming about it.
Let's look at that timeline of suspicion. This is segment 3, because it starts right in their own backyard.
Bulgaria. September 2015. OneCoin is barely a year old at this point. The Bulgarian Financial Supervision Commission issues a public warning explicitly citing OneCoin.
What did it say?
They effectively said, this is a risky new asset, it isn't regulated, be careful. It was a clear red flag.
And how did OneCoin respond to this? Did they hire lawyers? Did they try to comply?
They just moved. They ceased their main activities in Bulgaria and started moving their bank accounts to foreign jurisdictions. They played a game of jurisdictional whack-a-mole. If one country got suspicious, they'd just open accounts in another.
And then 2016 comes around, and the dam really starts to break.
It really was a global chorus of warnings. In February 2016, the Daily Mirror in the UK ran a big investigation. And they didn't use soft language.
No, I read that one. They called it virtually worthless.
And interestingly, they described the community as a cult.
That word cult matters. Because when you looked at the OneCoin believers, the One Life Network they call themselves, they defended Ruja with religious fervor.
Absolutely. If you criticized the coin, you were a hater. You didn't get it. You were part of the old system that was trying to hold them down.
That's the classic defense mechanism of the pyramid. If the outside world is the enemy, you only trust the leader.
But the warnings kept coming. March 2016, Norway's Direct Selling Association flat out calls it a pyramid scheme. Then, December 2016, Italy's antitrust authority issues an interim injunction and then later bans it completely.
So Italy actually shut it down within their borders.
They did. And then there's China. We have to talk about China. China is a massive market for these kinds of schemes because of the gambling culture and the strong desire to move money out of the country.
But the Chinese authorities do not mess around.
No. In 2016, they started prosecuting members and seizing assets.
How much did they get?
$30.8 million seized in one go. In total, over the course of their prosecutions, they recovered something like 1.7 billion yuan. That's hundreds of millions of dollars.
So by the end of 2016, you have public warnings in Bulgaria, investigations in the UK, a pyramid scheme designation in Norway, a ban in Italy, and mass arrests in China.
Right.
And yet the money kept flowing in from other places. Why?
Because of the narrative. OneCoin told their followers that the governments were scared. The banks are fighting us because we are the future. They are trying to stop the revolution. Every warning, every arrest was spun as proof that OneCoin was a genuine threat to the establishment.
That is some twisted, brilliant logic. But then we get to the Vietnam story in 2017. And this, to me, is the moment where the sophisticated businesswoman, mask slips, and you see the desperate criminal underneath.
This is the Vietnam forgery scandal. It's so clumsy. OneCoin desperately needed a win. They needed to show they had some kind of government legitimacy. So Ruja's team announced that OneCoin had been officially licensed by the Vietnamese government.
And not just licensed, but as the first legal crypto in all of Asia.
A huge claim. They posted photos online of the official document. It had the government seal, the signature, everything.
Looked legit.
It looked official to the untrained eye. But the Vietnamese government reacted with incredible speed. The Ministry of Planning and Investment issued a statement just 4 days later. They said flatly, "We never signed this. This document is a forgery."
And didn't they find out the signature itself was impossible?
Yes. This is the best part. The official, whose signature was supposedly on the document, wasn't even in that position on the date the document was supposedly signed.
So it's just a clumsy Photoshop job?
A terrible one. It reeks of desperation. That's not a 4D chess move by a genius. That's a panic move.
The walls were closing in?
They were. Around the same time in India, the police actually went undercover. They attended a big recruitment seminar in Navi Mumbai.
I love this detail. Just imagining the police sitting in the audience, clapping along with everyone else, taking notes on who the main promoters are.
And then, after gathering the evidence, they raided the event. They arrested the leaders and seized millions in rupees. But, and this is the recurring theme of the OneCoin story, when they went to freeze the main bank accounts, most of the money was gone. $10 million had been transferred out just moments before the seizure.
Someone had a tip-off. Or they were just moving money so fast, constantly, that the law couldn't keep up.
It was a global money laundering operation on an industrial scale. They were using shell companies, banks, and tax havens, layers and layers of obfuscation to stay one step ahead.
Which brings us to the climax, segment 4, the disappearance. Because you can only run a scam for so long before either the math breaks or the handcuffs click.
And late 2017 is the turning point. The U.S. justice system had been quietly building a massive case. They had filed a secret warrant for Ruja Ignatova's arrest.
Do we think she knew about the warrant?
Almost certainly. Whether she had a mole inside law enforcement or just sensed the heat was getting too intense, she ran. On October 25, 2017, she boarded a Ryanair flight from Sofia, Bulgaria to Athens, Greece.
Ryanair. It's such a mundane detail. The woman who stole billions of dollars flying a budget airline for her escape.
It's the last time she was confirmed to be seen in public. She landed in Athens, and then nothing. The trail goes cold.
But she left her family behind to face the music. Her brother, Konstantin Ignatov.
Konstantin. He's a tragic figure in his own way. He was always seen as the party brother. He wasn't the mastermind.
Not the brains of the operation.
No, he was the guy with the tattoos and the gym membership. But when Ruja vanished, he stepped up. He became the new face of OneCoin.
He took the captain's chair on the Titanic right after it hit the iceberg.
That's a perfect description. He continued the lies. He kept telling investors, Ruja is working on big things in the background. The IPO is still coming. But he lacked her polish. And more importantly, he lacked her escape plan.
The raid in 2018 in Sofia must have been the reality check for everyone.
It was. German prosecutors, working with Bulgarian police, stormed the OneCoin headquarters. They seized servers, documents, everything. This was the moment the tech was physically dismantled.
But Konstantin kept touring. He even came to the U.S.
Which was a fatal mistake. In March 2019, he was at Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, getting ready to fly out, and the FBI was waiting for him at the gate.
Wow. Imagine that moment. You think you're a crypto mogul, you're about to board a flight, and suddenly you're in federal custody.
And the dominoes fell very quickly after that. Konstantin, facing decades in prison, flipped. He pleaded guilty in November 2019.
He started cooperating.
He turned on the whole organization. He gave up details about Ruja, about the money laundering networks, everything. He's facing up to 90 years in prison, though his cooperation will likely reduce that sentence significantly.
And it wasn't just him. A scam this big needs professional help. Let's talk about Mark Scott.
Right.
Mark Scott wasn't some street hustler. He was a partner at a major international law firm.
Lord.
Yeah.
A very prestigious firm. Mark Scott was the guy who made the money disappear. He was the master launderer.
How did he do it?
He set up a series of fake private equity funds. They were called the Finaro funds in places like the British Virgin Islands. He took $400 million of OneCoin money and pretended it was investment capital from wealthy European families.
He laundered nearly $500 million. And for his trouble.
He reportedly made about $50 million in fees.
And what did he do with it?
He bought a yacht, of course. and several high-end properties in Cape Cod. The greed is just universal in this story. He was found guilty by a jury in 2019.
And then there's the co-founder, Sebastian Greenwood, the man with the Sunseeker.
He was on it down. Arrested in Thailand in July 2018. He was living on a private island, I believe.
Wow.
They extradited him to the U.S. He held out for a while, maintained his innocence, but eventually pleaded guilty in December 2022.
And the sentence was heavy.
20 years. He was sentenced in September 2023. He also had to forfeit billions in assets, though collecting that money is a whole other story.
And just recently, this year, the head of legal and compliance, Irina Delkinska.
The irony is just, it's too much. The head of compliance was actively laundering money for the company. She was extradited from Bulgaria in 2023 and was just sentenced to 4 years in prison in April of 2024.
So let's recap the players. The brother is singing to the feds. The co-founder is doing 20 years. The big shot lawyer is found guilty. The compliance officer is in jail.
The whole inner circle is dismantled.
Except for the queen, Ruja. She is still the ghost in the machine.
Which brings us to today, segment 5, the current state of affairs. Because the story hasn't ended. Ruja Ignatova is currently one of the most wanted human beings on the planet.
Literally, she is on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. She's the only woman on there right now, I believe.
She was added in June 2022. It's a very exclusive club you don't want to be in. And Europol has her on their most wanted list as well.
And there is a bounty on her head.
A massive one. Initially, it was $100,000. But in June 2024, the U.S. State Department, through their Transnational Organized Crime Rewards Program, raised the reward to up to $5 million.
$5 million for information leading to her arrest? That kind of money makes friends turn on friends. It makes bodyguards and accomplices rethink their loyalty.
It does. And it leads to the two prevailing theories about where she is. Theory 1. She is alive, well, and looking very different.
You mean plastic surgery?
Extensive plastic surgery. A new face, new hair, a new identity, a new high-quality fake passport. Maybe living in a place like Russia or Dubai, somewhere with no extradition treaty with the U.S. She took enough money, likely billions, to pay for silence for a very, very long time.
But then there's the darker theory, the theory that she isn't paying anyone anymore.
The dead theory. This has been pushed heavily by investigative journalists, particularly in Bulgaria. They've uncovered sources suggesting she might have been murdered as early as November 2018.
Murdered by who?
By the very organized crime figures who are allegedly protecting her and helping her launder money. There are strong allegations connecting her to a notorious Bulgarian drug lord known as Taki.
So the theory is?
The theory is that she became a liability. She knew too much. She was bringing way too much heat from the FBI and international law enforcement, so they closed the account permanently.
There were those gruesome rumors that she was killed on a yacht in the Ionian Sea and dismembered.
That's the story, yes. It's incredibly gruesome. But we have to stress, legally, officially, she is a fugitive. The FBI doesn't put dead people on the top 10 list unless they have definitive proof. They believe there is still a chance she is out there.
And while that international hunt goes on, the assets are slowly being clawed back.
Very slowly. In 2024, the Bulgarian prosecutor general initiated proceedings to confiscate her properties in Sofia. We were talking about office buildings, luxury apartments. It's a dismantling of the physical empire she left behind.
But the idea of OneCoin, that seems a lot harder to kill.
It is. It's like a zombie.
Yeah.
Even after all the arrests, the convictions, the disappearance, the network tried to pivot. They rebranded.
What'd they call it?
They called it One Ecosystem.
One Ecosystem. It sounds so benign and friendly.
Exactly. They claimed it was a completely separate entity, just using the same community and some of the same, technology. They tried to migrate the users over. It's a zombie brand.
Wow.
It proves that once you have a community that believes, a community that's been radicalized into a certain worldview, you can keep milking them even after the original cow is long gone.
It's terrifying. It shows that the scam wasn't just about the money, it was about the belief system they created.
It was a movement for many people.
So let's wrap this up. We have covered a lot of ground here. The fake education, the SQL database masquerading as a blockchain, the billions of dollars, the yachts, the prison sentences, the manhunt.
It is a cautionary tale in every single sense of the word.
For the listener, what is the one single thing they should take away from this? Aside from, don't buy crypto from a woman in a ball gown at a rock concert.
I think it comes back to that old saying that's become popular in crypto circles. If you don't understand where the yield comes from, you are the yield.
I love that. Say that again.
If you don't understand the mechanism of the profit, you are the profit.
Yeah.
OneCoin thrived on the black box model. Put money in here, magic happens inside, more money comes out there.
Don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions. And in the age of AI and even more complex crypto, we're going to see this again and again. People will say it's a quantum trading bot or it's an AI-driven decentralized finance protocol.
Buzzwords as camouflage for a scam.
Exactly. If they can't explain it to you in plain English, or if the code isn't open source and verifiable by third parties, you have to assume it's a spreadsheet in a basement in Bulgaria.
And assume the mining is just a progress bar on a screen.
Precisely. Assume it's a game.
I want to leave everyone with a thought to chew on. Ruja Ignatova. $5 million on her head. Right now, as you're listening to this, she is either at the bottom of the sea or she is sitting in a villa somewhere, maybe with a different nose and different hair, watching the news. Maybe she's even listening to this deep dive.
That is a chilling thought.
If she is out there, she pulled off one of the greatest heists of the 21st century and got away with it. But if the circles she moved in, the drug lords, the international money launderers, if they decided she was a loose end, then she paid the ultimate price for that fake coin.
A very dark end to the story, if true.
And for the rest of us, the next OneCoin is probably being launched right now on a Telegram group somewhere with a new charismatic leader and a new set of buzzwords. The question is, have we learned enough from this to spot it this time?
I really hope so.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and whatever you do, keep your keys safe. We'll see you next time.